Welcome back. You're with Full View on SABC News. It's time for Market Sense, a look at the day's economic news. But before we get into the business news and the number of the day, let's take you straight back to New York. And of course, the UN General Assembly is underway, one of the biggest gatherings of world leaders. And it's the 73rd. And we have Sherwin Bryce-Pease standing by with a distinguished guest. Sherwin.
Well, I do apologize for interrupting the business news, Francis, but as you correctly point out, everybody's in town in New York, very important people, and when they come and talk to us, we certainly don't like to keep them waiting. Of course, we just chatted about the opening segment of the 73rd session of the General Assembly. Of course, the big focus here is on restoring the central tenets of multilateralism, reinforcing the UN Charter, but also countering the rhetoric that kind of wants to put nationalist rhetoric and unilateralism first. To give us some analysis and to talk about her agenda here, I am now joined by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Baroness Patricia Scotland. It's always good to see you, ma'am. Welcome to the United Nations. The last time I saw you was in Washington, so very good to see you in New York.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
I know you don't want to get into it, right? You don't want to criticize leaders or country statements, but I'm going to push anyway. What did you think of the opening statements? Firstly, the Secretary General, and of course soon followed by the United States President Donald Trump.
Well, let me concentrate on what the Secretary General said.
Sure.
Because I think he was absolutely right. If you look at what happened after 1945, why did we create all these multilateral agencies? Because we had suffered. We saw millions and millions of the citizens of the world slaughtered through 2 world wars, and we, the international community, said never again and never in our name. And so what we saw since 1945 is a more peaceful, more equal and fairer international community. And that was with all of us working together with one joint purpose. The Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agenda on climate change, the peace that we now have a right to expect for our young people. We've got 1.8 billion young people with hopes and aspirations, which we now need to recognize. So I thought that the Secretary General had it spot on. This is a moment where we need multilateralism even more than we've ever done before.
Yeah, just to quote the Secretary General, he talked about a world suffering from a bad case of trust deficit order. How do we restore that trust?
Well, I think we've seen it very clearly in the Commonwealth. As you know, the Commonwealth has 53 countries. We've got 2.4 billion people. That's about a third of the world's population. 60% of our citizens are under the age of 30. And the great thing is we, a little like the UN, have 6 different regions. So often the regional organizations are concentrating just on what's happening to them. In our Commonwealth, we have Africa, we have Asia, we have Europe, we have the Pacific, we have the Caribbean, and we have the Americas, because of course we have Canada. And that gives us an opportunity to really taste and see what our world does, because we are like a little petri dish. And so I looked at what the Secretary General was saying about the UN, and it is equally true about the Commonwealth. And the thing that I felt as I listened to the opening is that the Commonwealth has never been more important. If you think about what has happened this year, the G7 couldn't really agree. The G20 couldn't really agree.
Well, there's a reason for that.
And we started to think that maybe we couldn't agree internationally on a cold custard tart.
With cherries on top.
However, what happened in the Commonwealth? 53 leaders went to London. We had a comprehensive agenda. We talked about the need for greater peace, connectivity. We talked about young people. We talked about women. We talked about climate change and the Blue Charter. And in all these issues on trade, on energy, 53 leaders agreed on everything.
But Baroness, you make the point for me. You're saying without the United States President in the room, countries can actually move forward and find consensus.
I couldn't possibly comment, but what I will say is the Commonwealth, who is joined by the same language, the same parliamentary set, the same common law, we together have a pathway for others as well as ourselves to walk along. And there's never been a more challenging international environment than right now.
So my final point on this, what do you then make of statements where people say, I reject the globalism ideology in favor and I embrace patriotism? What do you make of a statement like that?
I think we need to embrace humanity. And that's something that the Commonwealth does. We wanted to talk, of course, about what we're doing on trade, the fact that we are working together to enhance the 19% advantage in Commonwealth countries, but we're doing something else. We realize that the rules-based structure is of critical importance. And many of our countries who are small, who are developing, are facing Goliath-like problems. And so I think there's an opportunity for us in the Secretariat, working together with our 53 countries, to come together to craft the perfectly weighted stones to put in David's sling. Because these colossal, Goliath-like international problems can be solved if we pool our resources, if we share our innovation, and we craft those stones which will help us all equally to deliver for our member states.
The point being, of course, sharing best practice. So you're sharing, to follow up from London, I have to wrap soon, you are convening a meeting of foreign ministers to be chaired by Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. Give us a quick wrap of what you expect from that.
We'll be talking about what the results of the CHOGM agenda, what we've all done, how we've all shared. We're talking about how we reform and considering where to next. And there's some great ideas. I hope everyone will go and look at our website, thecommonwealth.org. On it, we've got great work on our innovation hub. We'll be talking about connectivity. How do we digitalize? How do we bring better fairness? And how do we go forward to a fairer, secure, and better future for all our 2.4 billion citizens? And South Africa has a great role to play.
Baroness Patricia Scotland, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Secretary General of the Commonwealth, some 50 plus nations, they will be meeting on Thursday at Foreign Secretary or Minister of Foreign Affairs level. And of course, in the room there will be South Africa's International Relations Minister, Lindiwe Sisulu. Before I hand back, just a reminder that President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the General time. That's around 7:30 your time in South Africa and in Africa, and we will bring that to you live on SABC News.